Need that fire, boy.
Look at the fire blazing, man. The ganja. We don't just smoke the herbs so early in the morning. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you've never been here before and you're like, I don't know who the fuck this dude is, I never heard of this stupid show before, then welcome for your first time. And go ahead, I'm gonna let you know, this is that kind of party. Go ahead and get your bongs and your blunts and your joints and your dabs and get them all out. If you got shrooms, eat them if you got them. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna have some fun today. Well, actually, we're not. We got some serious shit to talk about, but it's actually going to be super interesting and informative. And I don't know. I got like 2 topics, but it's a lot. It's a lot to go over. So I'd appreciate y'all stopping by, listening in. Hopefully, I learned a lot doing some research on this stuff, and so hopefully you guys learn a lot from it as well. I promise I wouldn't get too political anymore, unless it was important. And so today there is a segment that's just I'm going to talk about absentee voting and stuff like that. But nevertheless, in cannabis news, I learned some other things that might be common knowledge to certain people. I mean, if I don't know how deep everyone's knowledge is of cannabis. I mean, there's a lot of people, like I've said several times before on other episodes, a lot of people smarter than me. A lot of them grow and distribute cannabis. So I don't know a lot of the industry terms, or I'm strictly a consumer on a base level. I was the guy who would get fronted by a middleman at one point in my life, and but that's about as far as I got into the industry. So as far as technical terms and stuff, I didn't really look into it too much. I don't know anything about like the chemical compounds. Like I said, I know there's like 64 chemical compounds in the weed plant already. And then, obviously the one we like is THC, and also CBD has tremendous medicinal benefits. But also there's chemicals that get sprayed to the weed during growth. And I've known about that because as a consumer, you've smoked weed that tastes it. You could taste it. It tastes like fucking like pine sol and shit. Like it's this really pungent taste, and it's like, well, how have I tasted all these different strains, and yet it still tastes like that chemical? And that's because they're spraying it on it when you grow it. And so I saw some shit that I was thinking about, and it was like, how much do you know about your bud? You know what I'm saying? Do you actually know what you're smoking? Do you think the high off the bud and its chemicals that they use to grow it are called PGRs? And they are hard, more dense, and they have chemicals. And so if your bud is like more dense, and it's like harder bud, it's more likely that it has chemicals. I mean, I've had some pretty awesome dense bud before, like fucking Blue Dream, that's just like rock hard on the outside, and if you crumble it with your fingers, you don't have to use a grinder or anything, but apparently they're saying no PGR plants are fluffy and sticky, and will get you a natural high from the bud. So they're saying like, no PGR, so bud that's grown organically with no additives or chemicals being sprayed on the plant are obviously better. Which, I mean, I think if you gave people the option, like if you were like, hey, do you want this chemical weed or do you want this organic? I mean, like 10 out of 10 times people are going to pick the organic weed, unless you make the chemical weed cheaper. Then there's always going to be that fucking dumbass that would rather spend less to get cancer or whatever. But this dude, and honestly, I don't know if it causes cancer, because I've probably smoked a lot of this PGR weed, quote unquote PGR weed. I mean, shit, dude, we used to smoke fucking Mexican swag weed that was probably buried in the ground for 2 years, and like the moisture is, tainting the weed, and, it's heating up and cooling down, and so you get mold on the weed, not to mention like spider mites and whatever fuck else was like I said, it's just brick weed that's been, usually moved up from the cartel, and that's why, it is what it is. But now, I mean, everybody can grow shitty weed. It's not like I said it before, it's not like you have to go to Mexico to get fucking shitty brick weed. So, but like also people don't take into consideration spider mites and mold and shit like that. If they grow it themselves and they sell it to people, then, you could be smoking some shit that could really fuck you up. And apparently these PGRs are one of those things. And like I said, I've probably smoked a shit ton of PGR weed over the day, in my days. But it says, what are PGRs? Good question. Plant growth regulators is what it's called. PGRs are used by money-hungry growers, and the result is cheap, which means that people are out here rushing plants. It helps them control the growth of the plant. In cannabis, these are cheap additives used to fatten up buds to increase both weight and density, and hence they inflate the price to deceive unwitting smokers. Everyone calls themselves real smokers, but you don't know what you are smoking. Plugs don't even know the actual strain of the weed they sell at that most of the time, which is true as fuck. I mean, unless you know the dude who grew the fucking weed, or the guy who knows the guy who grew the weed, there's no way to know what you're actually. I mean, the best thing you could do, and I've done it. I'm sure I know like a couple other people that do it. I'm just kind of like a dork. So when I get a strain off my guy, my street merchant, and he explains to me, oh, this is blueberry bunk cake, dude. And I'm like, damn, I've never heard of that. And it's not a real strain to my knowledge, but, he's like, this is cheetah piss. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll look it up. And I'm like, damn, cheetah piss is only grown by cookies. So damn, you got cheetah piss, And normally with my guy, it's usually like pretty much on point, because Leafly is the website I use. And basically, you type in any strain, train wreck, Girl Scout cookies, whatever, and it pulls up. It gives you pictures, random, like a bunch of different pictures from different people, and gives you a flavor profile and a high profile, and it's really nice, actually. I use Leafly a lot whenever I'm buying weed that I don't necessarily recognize, and so strains like that are important. But yeah, you got people that come up with ridiculous names for their weed, and then they front it to a guy and tell him that it's called that. And, next thing you know, you're buying, this is Grizzly Bear Funk right here, bro. Or some stupid bullshit like that. Like, that was a dumb example. I just came up with that, but you know what I'm saying? Like they always come up with some stupid name that don't make no fucking sense, and then they give it out, and I'm like, damn. Like, I could have came up with something better. Hey, man, that's called weed right there. Does it smell good? It tastes good? Does it smell good? Are you high? Okay, all right, cool. It's weed. Hey, enjoy. But that's facts though. People are selling weed that they don't even know the real strain of, and that's just the effects of mass production, and there's so many hybrids now, and so like you don't like, unless you really know where you get your seeds from, you're just growing weed. You know what I mean? And you can call it whatever you want, but I mean, unless you know. You don't really know, you know what I'm saying? You got to buy clones or buy like seeds from like a licensed vendor, that's got like regulations, and they can 100% give you papers on the shit. You know what I'm saying? Apparently, if you have a fluff to your bud will burn white or a near white ash whenever combusted. And darker, blacker ash is an indication of an inferior product. I've actually heard that before. So if your ash is primarily black, that's usually a result of, chemicals being sprayed on your weed. And, like the article just said, if it's white, normally there's a lighter color to the ash. Normally it's more organic weed. And actually, I used to work at the strip club, and I would smoke with a bunch of girls, but, this one girl in particular, her name is Caitlin. She said that, we grow our own, and so I don't smoke anybody else's weed. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of bougie. Like, I'm trying to share it with you. And like, at first I didn't understand what the fuck she meant, dude. Like, whenever they had harvest or whatever, she had brought a nug to work and like had given me a nug and then smoked with me. And when I tell you, like, I could tell the fucking difference. Like, I could tell the difference. Like, it tasted better. It smoked better. Like, I got so damn high. And it was like, you know, and like, I think that's the thing is, like, people have a misconception that, you know, doing all the chemicals and all the, you know, the additives and shit, like, is going to add to the terpene profile and make it, like, you know, more funky or whatever, you know, even the aroma more funky. And I don't think that necessarily is true. Like I said, it really, before, it just, to me, it kind of, like, the chemicals, at least whatever particular chemical I'm thinking of that I don't know the name of, in my mind, you know, it tastes like pine sol and shit. Like, I've had it several times throughout my my stoner career, you know. So, like I said, and there's no way that, like, all these different strains taste the same fucking way. You know, all like pine sol. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Like lemony, fresh ass weed, easy squeezy lemon peasy ass weed. But you know, darker ash means that chemicals used in the growing process are still present in the plant, which are ideally harmful to humans whenever smoked and inhaled, which I said I've smoked a lot of. Actually, and I didn't know, this is the part that I wanted to get to because I didn't know this fucking existed. It's called Cannabis Hypermesis Syndrome. And it can land you in the hospital for days if you've been smoking tainted bud for too long. And actually, there's been, like, I was reading this thing and it said there's, like, already been 3 deaths. 2 deaths. I'm sorry, there's at least 2 deaths have been associated with the cannabinoid hypermesis syndrome. And honestly, I mean, I don't know if like they really died from that, but like I'm sure like it could complicate your breathing and shit like that, and you could get sick from other shit and then die. But they'll do everything they can to pin a death on cannabis because it's never, you know, it's not possible to overdose. And if it is like the symptoms of an overdose are like Twinkies and a fucking nap, you know what I'm saying, or a bag of Doritos and a nap or some shit, like come on, man. It's happy, hungry, sleepy. That's it. Like that's the symptoms of a fucking marijuana overdose. And if you smoke the right weed, if you have that option, you know, that blessing of being able to go to a facility and pick out weed that you know, fits your particular ailments or, you know, for whatever you're smoking for, then you know, you might not even hit the cycle. You might, like, it might just improve your appetite and then you can go about your day. You won't go, you know, hungry, sleepy. But you buy weed on the street, like I said before in other episodes, you know, you pretty much take what you can get. We get a lot of hybrids and a lot of indicas because those are safe sellers on the street. You know, like that, like, you know, you could sell a bag of sativa to an indica guy and he's gonna call you and be like, hey man, that weed's fucking trash, even though it's fire. You know what I'm saying? And then you gotta be like, bro, it's just not your bag, whatever. This ain't fucking Walmart, you know, and it's a big issue. So it's easier just to buy hybrids and indicas because it's an overall, like, safe seller, like I said, like, because even if I'm a sativa guy, if I need weed, if I want to smoke, I'm not going to give a fuck that you got granddaddy perp. I'm just going to be a fucking useless person for a few days, you know, and that's just the way it is. But cannabinoid hypermesis syndrome is a recurrent nausea, vomiting, and cramping abdominal pain due to cannabis use. These symptoms may improve temporarily by taking a hot shower or a bath, taking a nice warm poop. Complications include kidney failure, electrolyte problems, and skin burns from hot water. At least 2 deaths have been associated to this syndrome. I mean, I've never had this syndrome. I've been smoking pretty much every day for 10 years. Since I've been 19 years old, I've been smoking almost every day. Like, there have been a few exceptions, and I quit for a month just to prove to myself that I could do it one time. So a few days, meaning weddings, funerals, stuff like that. And even on those days, I'd smoke sometimes. So, but then, yeah, the whole month that I took off, like in 2013 or something, whenever, I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, because I was beginning to think I'm an addict. And I mean, I might, like I said before, I might actually be, because you know, you can be addicted to fucking anything. You can be addicted to cheeseburgers or milk or, you know, whatever. Caffeine is a big one. You know, so anything that becomes, like, anything that you enjoy that like can become a human habit. You know, it can be an addiction for you. Some things are more crippling than others. You know what I'm saying? Anything that you consider a vice can be can be considered an addiction, so that's just the way I feel. But this does say weekly cannabis use is generally required for the syndrome to occur. The underlying mechanism is unclear, with several possibilities proposed. Diagnosis is based on symptoms. The condition is typically present for some time before a diagnosis is made. Another condition is made present similarly is cyclic vomiting syndrome. Definitive treatment involves stopping use of cannabis. Up to 2 weeks may be required to see a benefit. Treatments during an episode of vomiting, generally supportive in nature, There is tentative evidence for the use of capsaicin cream on the abdomen I've never needed any of this shit, but I have, like I said before on an episode, there was, my friend used to get sick. He became one of the biggest potheads that I know because we just didn't leave him alone about it. He'd be hanging out with us and we'd just get fucking trashed ass stoned. And so, one thing was, like, we'd drive around. I remember, like, when he first started smoking with us, like, he would be like, pull over, man, pull over. And he had to, like, lay down in the back seat and shit. And he, like, threw up. And because he was, like everything was, like, shaking and spinning to him. And he got, like, sick. And, we were, like, being dicks. We're like, yeah, pussy, it's just weed, blah, blah. But, like, maybe he had, this syndrome. Cannabinoid hypermesis syndrome. Maybe that's a thing that he had. I don't know, man. That's crazy to me. I didn't even know that existed, like I said. And for them to say that 2 deaths are attributed to it, I'm a little skeptical on that. But, that's just because I've smoked so much weeds in 10 years, and I'm not dead. So, and I'm also not, like, the healthiest guy in the world either. So it's not like my immune system is Chuck Norris or anything. I'm fucking, I'm overweight, you know what I'm saying? I don't necessarily eat the best. I don't really take care of myself. It's not like I eat vitamins every day, but at the same time, I smoke every day. So I don't know if everyone's able to get it or if it's like only certain people that get it, or maybe you have to have like another condition in order to, I don't know. That's weird. But something else I wanted to get to today, and probably the longest segment on today's episode, is just, I'm going to do my best to stay objective and, just report this, because I just want to give y'all the facts. And realistically, I have my opinions and my views, and I'm going to say that regardless, but at the end of the day, even if you disagree with me, if you can get through and pass my opinions to hear the facts that I'm going to lay out, that would benefit both of us. You know what I'm saying? So, absentee voting in Trump land is becoming an issue, and this is the first time I've ever seen it in my lifetime. I don't know if what it was like in my dad's time or my grandma's time, because I've never heard of a president really combating the U.S. Postal Service. It's a governmental agency. Normally, I assume they handle that shit internally normally. So Trump declaring a war on the U.S. Postal Service triggered my attention. And the more I dug, the more I found out about it. So I guess we can put this in today's conspiracy section, even though I'm just going to lay out some facts for you. Due to COVID-19, more Americans than ever are relying on this mail-in ballot system, as a mean to cast their votes in the upcoming presidential election. President Trump has been extremely vocal about his feelings surrounding mail-in ballots, both in press conference and also on Twitter. He claims that the mail-in voting system is fraudulent and will rig the election, obviously against him, or else he wouldn't be worried about it. But he's now all of a sudden, mail-in voting is a problem. The history of absentee voting dates all the way back to the 19th century, and modern-day procedures and availability vary by jurisdiction. Absentee voting may be available on demand or limited to individuals meeting a certain criteria, such as proven inability to travel to a designated polling place. Many electors are required to apply for absentee voting, although some may receive postal ballot by default anyway. So, in some elections, postal voting is the only voting method allowed, and is referred to as all postal voting. So, in some places, it's the only way you can vote. Typically, postal votes must be mailed back on or before the scheduled election day. However, in some jurisdictions, return methods may also allow for dropping off the ballot in person via secure drop boxes or at voting centers. Democrats want to expand the absentee voting this year and make it easier for people to vote from home due to coronavirus, which makes total fucking sense. Trump, in light of that, has asked his political allies to fight back against these efforts, and they've already pledged over $20 million to do so. So Trump asked his political homies, and most of them were honestly already Republican donors, and an effort called the Trump Victory Fund. He has asked his political allies to fight back against the post office, and they've already pledged over $20 million to his efforts to stop the mail so that he doesn't get outvoted. He claims it's vote fraud, but we've been doing this since the 19th century. I just said that. So, taking that into consideration, like, bro, if it was that fraudulent, some president along the line would have stood up by now, but instead it was just you. And, I found that weird. And now already, like, there's already been ripple effects that are happening to the U.S. Postal Service as a result of this. Backlogs of undelivered mail have already been crowding postal service offices in America, results of the orders given by Trump's appointed Postmaster General, who has never worked for the Postal Service in his life, by the way. And he's also a top-tier Republican campaign donor who has also personally contributed $1.1 million out of his own pocket to the Trump Victory Fund. So, if that's not conflict of interest, I don't know what the fuck is. Like, if the Postmaster General for the U.S. Postal Service is donating $1.1 million to stop the U.S. Postal Service, like, how is that not conflict of interest? And they warned him about this before he appointed him. Trump had announced that he was appointing him, and several people came out talking about, well, that's conflict of interest, because he's not only has he never worked for the Postal Service in his life, but he's also a millionaire and a campaign donor, So let's talk about this guy. Our current Postmaster General is a guy named Louis DeJoy, and he was a CEO originally. He was the CEO of High Point, North Carolina-based New Breed Logistics from 1983 to 2014, and he retired. His company was acquired by Connecticut-based freight transporter XPO Logistics for a reported $615 million. So he had New Breed Logistics. They got bought out by XPO Logistics, and for $615 million, a lot of money. Following that acquisition, he served as CEO of XPO's supply chain. So he gets $615 million, and they employ him as the CEO of the XPO's supply chain business in North America until his retirement in 2015. And he was appointed to a strategic role on XPO's logistics board of directors, where he served until 2018. So they didn't really buy him out. They gave him a super powerful position. They partnered up with him and gave him $615 million. And he was still on the board of directors, and he was the CEO of the supply chain. So dude did very well for himself. In 2018, he left his job. He served as a major donor for the fundraiser for Donald Trump's initial election. In 2017, DeJoy was named one of 3 deputy finance chairmen of the Republican National Committee, along with Trump's lawyer Michael Cohen and the venture capitalist Elliot Broidy. I don't know if I said that wrong. In May 2019, DeJoy became local finance chairman for planned 2020 Republican National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. DeJoy's appointment was controversial because of his political bias, as I stated before, as well as his because of his financial position. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the fact that the dude's rich, but I could see how that could be a conflict of interest. Obviously, he has now it's a problem because he has enough money to have political sway, and he's donated $1.1 million to stopping the service that he's been appointed to run at this point. So yeah, I mean, that got dangerous. I could see that. Let me get some Waga. Sorry about that. DJ's appointment was controversial. As I said, while he divested some investments before taking on his role, like shares in UPS and Amazon that he had, he did not divest his 30 to 75 million equity stake in XPO, a subcontractor for the USPS. So there you go. There's his connection. XPO Logistics is a subcontractor for the USPS. Additionally, when he was sold his Amazon shares, he purchased stock and options in the company that represent between 20 and 100% of his prior holdings. Finally, DJoy is the first postmaster in 2 whole decades without prior experience in the United States Postal Service. So he's the first postmaster in 20 years that has never worked for the post office before. He's been appointed by the president. DJoy implemented cost-cutting measures at the request of the president recently. On top of this, workers have confirmed an internal post office service directive that basically discusses an operational pivot, saying that extra trips to deliver mail are no longer authorized, and that we may see mail left behind or on the workroom floor or docks, which is obviously untypical. It's not typical at all to have mail left behind on the workroom floor or the docks. Left behind, though, that's a weird term to put in a piece of paper that you made your employee sign. Although USPS is remaining optimistic, however, timely mail right now, timely mail is more important than it's ever been. And currently 32 states actually will not count any ballots that arrive during Election Day. So even if postmarked earlier, so in other words, if you mail your ballot on time, 32 states won't even count your vote if the post office is running too late for any reason. If they don't deliver it on time, then your vote doesn't count in 32 states. And that's Election Day. So that's not even saying after Election Day. That's Election Day. If your shit hasn't gotten there before Election Day in 32 states, then whether you mailed it in time or not, your vote doesn't count. Crazy. Obviously, though, this doesn't just affect absentee voting. Stopping the mail messes a lot of things up in life for a lot of people, including bills and paychecks, etc. Reports have already been made that people waiting weeks for their mail at their homes, and in Baltimore, Maryland, there have been lines outside their local post office for 2 whole hours just for them to get inside and be told that their mail never showed up. You got to think, though, this doesn't just affect voting, as I've said earlier. Elderly people that aren't technologically savvy, they rely on the mail to pay their bills and stuff like that. They don't have internet, email, and they don't have automatic bill paying a lot of times. Not everybody has younger kids around that help them do things. So older people are relying on mail for a lot of things. And it's not only about like important stuff, but you expect your mail to come on time. You order things in the mail and you want it to be here. You know what I'm saying? And so, it is of importance though when you think about it, because like I said, that bills and stuff like that. But it's also important to remember that a large amount of elderly and disabled people receive their medications through the mail as well. Now you're actually fucking with people's lives. If a guy is dependent on his medication to live, and he has nobody, and it comes once a month in the mail, like a check would, or his check, like say he's on disability, he gets Social Security and medication in the mail. So now his check's coming late, and now his medication's coming late as well. And if he doesn't get his medication, what if he dies? That's messed up, man. I don't know at what point we start thinking about other people, but it's probably a good time to start. And just when you think that the fuckery couldn't get any more sticky, on top of budget cuts and authoritarian mandates added to the U.S. Postal Service's daily operations all over major cities in America, much like the ladies of the night, USPS drop boxes are being ripped off the street corners that they occupied once. And workers of the USPS have stated that higher-ups are coming in to their larger post office facilities and removing the machine that sorts the mail, consequently slowing things down. A great deal, more than it was already, at least. There's a lot of hypocrisy in my opinion. There's a lot of hypocrisy in crying wolf towards election fraud and then using your power and loopholes to commit it yourself. And while I'll be the first one to admit, no candidate on either side of the two-party system seems electable to many Americans, including myself. I think that it's dangerous to allow any leader of any quote-unquote free country to have this level of control or sway over the voting process in an election that could potentially, cause him to lose his position. So I thought that was all very interesting. Honestly, I just wanted to talk to y'all about it because I thought that, it was important enough to bring up, to be honest with you. People need to know. I mean, like I said, I guess you could add that to the conspiracy section or whatever because, I'm talking about possibilities. But everything I just said to you was facts. It takes a little bit of research. If you don't like me, if you don't like the way I say things, or if you don't like, the opinions on attached to my facts, then, that's fine. I honestly don't care. But, do your own research and find out for yourself. You need to know about the people that you're supporting, as I want to. You know what I'm saying? This is the whole reason why I don't have a horse in this race right now, as far as the election goes. Necessarily, all of my hopes have been exhausted, and while I feel a duty to maybe push things towards an area where I might feel more comfortable, or might feel like, okay, maybe this person cares more about the people of America than the current president, then I'm honestly undeciding on whether or not I'm going to participate this year. And I mean, I know that sounds bad, honestly. Like I trust me, I've been going back and forth over it in my mind, and I don't know if I'm gonna vote or not. To be honest with you, don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. 2017, 2016, I voted for Bernie, and I know I'm gonna get shit for that too. But you know what, dude? He is a candidate that when he spoke, I could feel that he actually gives a shit. Genuinely, in his core, gives a shit about the people of America. Not corporate America, not capitalism, and y'all could fucking say socialism is communism or blah, blah, blah. I fucking hate that shit because, look, LBJ was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was a democratic socialist, held office longer than any other president in U.S. history. Facts. Actually, they made term limits because he kept getting elected. And he also came out with a statement, which is kind of funny. I say elected, but then he came out with a statement later that says presidents get selected, not elected. And so LBJ, the guy who held the office longer than anybody else, says that. But he's also a democratic socialist, and the country thrived under his leadership. So, why you want to say Bernie's a communist and all this bullshit, you forgot that it also worked already. And in modern era, I think there's the financial wealth gap is so huge in America. You're like, the middle class has been dissolved at this point. Now we're at we're finally at this turning point where you're either rich or you're poor. You're either working class, and then there's, obviously there's like a third world type of poor that's like beneath the working middle class. But the middle class is now the working class. There is no middle class, and you're either rich, you got money, or you don't. And while I'm not like one of those people that's going to be like, oh, you damn rich people, like, it's not that you exist, or that you have money. It's the things you do with it that upset me. Your zoning laws that are evidently, so obviously racist, and there's all kinds of, you're fighting against the wrong shit. And it's the money you put into politics, and I don't necessarily have a problem with capitalism, but when capitalism has allowed, corporate cronyism to get to the point where lobbyism now is, the bread and butter of our government, that drives our government and our voting system, it's ridiculous. I think that the U.S. government for a long time, maybe in the beginning, represented the wants and demands and the needs of the American people. But it hasn't been that way for many years, and I don't think we're ever going to get back to that. And that's my whole issue with, Donald Trump. People don't like him because he's quote unquote not a politician. He's not. He's not a politician, and he said it in his election. But I've bought many politicians, and that's the truth, because that's what he is. He's a corporate CEO, businessman. He's a corporate CEO. It's simple. He's working for them. He's a corporate shill. He's in there. He's an implant. And so, while I want to, like his temperament and his words and all the things I don't like about him aside, if I'm just looking at the facts, it's unethical for him to be president. And the way he acts just makes it 10 times worse when he does things like, declaring war on the U.S. Postal Service and asking his friends to donate millions of dollars to do so, including his homie that he made the U.S. Postal Service Postmaster General. Crazy collusion, crazy conflict of interest, and that I don't, like I said before, I just think that's a little dangerous. We don't need 2020 to get any worse. I was saying with CJ, really, they're gonna break out the zombies, release the zombies. 2020 is not over yet. I don't want to jinx it, but we got this election coming up. I just want to get this shit over with. I don't know. This is going to be a crazy one though. I hope y'all are strapped in and ready for a ride. I feel like 2020's got more shit to come. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I feel like more of a shit storm is to come. The shit winds are brewing, and they're going to shit rain down upon all of us. My phone's going off. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate each and every single one of y'all that made it this far. If you listen to me, dude, I fucking appreciate the shit out of you. Otherwise, I'm just sitting here talking to myself. 100. So, interaction's important. If you guys got any questions, comments, suggestions, you love me, you hate me, hit me up, let me know. Comment section, message, like, comment, share. Tell your mom, tell your mom's mom, tell your friends' friends, and we'll see if we can turn this into a legit, fucking well-listened to podcast. And it's not the popularity I'm worried about. I just want to put up my opinion out there and get some other like-minded individuals surrounded around me that we can exchange information. And like I said before, they don't always have to be like-minded. I have friends that don't agree with me, that are able to keep their their temper in check, and they do we have great conversations. So like I said, leave your opinions in the comment sections and all that good stuff. And you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Big Buddha Potcast on both. I'm on Instagram at Buddha Smokes Buddha. You can find me on there. I am on Snapchat at Buddha the Dude. On there. You can also find the Big Buddha Podcast on Spotify and iHeartRadio. And so, and I'm working on, the Google Podcast. I'm working on Apple stuff. I've actually submitted. They just haven't approved me yet. I guess they're waiting to see if I'm legit. So, anyway, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for stopping by. Come back later, you hear?